Hi, my name is Dinah Liberton, and this is my development of a leadership theory timeline. But first, we have to ask, what is leadership? We're going to look to Grogan for his definition and understanding of what a leader is. Leadership is often associated with position, but people can be leaders even without a designated position. Leaders are anyone that can help guide and show the way to others. Many positions that we consider leadership positions are that of managers. Managers focus on getting tasks completed, instructing others, defining and outlining both goals and deadlines. Leaders go beyond these steps. Leaders help others focus on long-term goals. They interact with others on a political level, ensuring that all followers have a sense of renewal and an engagement in relationships. There are several major leadership theories, and developing a timeline overview was a little complicated for me. There's not a set, cut and dry order of when a leadership theory fell in and out of popularity. Each of these leadership theories have increased and decreased in popularity back and forth over the years, but as a general rule, these leadership theories have developed along these lines. To understand leadership theories, we're going to talk a little bit more about the great man theory, trait theory, behavioral theories, contingency theories, transactional leadership theories, transformational leadership theories, and then also explore the future of leadership theories. LeadershipCentral.com offered a breakdown of several of these theories. The first theory that was covered is the great man theory. This is going to be our first leadership theory presented by Thomas Carlyle, but it was really a theory before there were theories. Before Thomas Carlyle put it into print, men had power and passed their power on to their children. The idea was that society was shaped by great people, not that society influenced people to become great. Thomas pointed out that all a person needed to be a great leader, to be a great man, was godly motivation and personality. Now, this was the definition of leadership up until the 1940s. And while it didn't really define leadership in any way, it did get others thinking about what a leader is. Which brings us to the trait theory. So if men are born leaders, they have to be born with certain traits. At least this is a little bit more specific than great men or great leaders. Ralph M. Stockdale in 1974 published some writings on the trait theory, but before that, it was a popular idea that developed in psychology, this idea that we're born with certain traits. We have traits for different skills, and some people are simply born better leaders than others. This theory lacks an ability to help people become leaders, but it does allow us to identify who could potentially be a good leader. This checklist of personality traits, ambitious, persuasive, energetic, persistent, are all traits that make excellent leaders. It developed even further into personality quizzes that Myers-Briggs and some others thought up based upon Carl Jung's archetypes that people behave in certain basic ways and follow basic certain patterns. It ended up leading to 16 personality traits that can be identified among individuals. In the 80s, McCall and Lombardo were quick to point out that it took more than just certain personality traits. That emotional stability was also extremely important in leadership. Emotional stability could be thought of as a behavior. This brings us into behavioral theories on leadership. Behavioral psychology points out that humans are born a blank slate, that through environment and experiences, we can be made into anything desired. While this theory does not point out specific traits, it does identify 9 specific behaviors. Research done in the 40s by Ohio State University found that there are 9 leadership behaviors that can be placed into 2 specific groups. Leaders can either be people-oriented or task-oriented. The University of Michigan elaborated upon that in the 50s and found that people can also have a type of leadership identified as participative leadership. Behavioral theories brought researchers to develop a leader behavior description questionnaire, which is widely popular and allows organizations to identify leader behaviors. Leadership theory started out with this idea that simply leaders existed, to then certain traits established that people were leaders, to then behaviors were the defining element of leaders. As these theories developed, people began thinking that perhaps there was a little bit more to leadership than just behaviors and traits, and that it was a situational awareness that needed to be had. Various theories involving contingency were developed starting in the 1960s onward. The idea is that organizations are dynamic. There are theories involving strategic contingency theories, contingent on leadership theories, situational contingency theories, and decision participation contingency theories. The idea is that the situation and the elements involved are part of what makes a leader a leader. Now, this example of contingency risks is not necessarily a leadership theory, but it gives you the idea that I'm talking about. It's a chart, an organization. If this happens and this happens, then you follow down and take this action. And that's how leaders were developed and made. For many years, that was the focus of leadership theories, is if this happens, then you result with this behavior. The problem with this is you can't account for all circumstances. The theory either seems to lack common sense and spell things out to people to really restrict and limit their leadership abilities, or it's overly general, and when a situation does arise, there's no help allowing the leader to know what direction to take. So then perhaps leadership isn't contingent on any elements. Perhaps it is more transactional based. This idea became widely popular in the 70s and 80s by theorists Max Weber and Bernard M. Bass. The idea is that organizational interactions are simple transactions, that leadership simply need followers to do something for something. If you obey, you get a reward. If you disobey, there is a punishment. This theory goes back to Pavlov and Skinner and the idea that behaviors and actions are based upon needs and wants. This type of leadership is a totalitarian dictatorship. There are no questions asked by the followers. There are no engagement by the organization with the leaders. It is simply one person telling another person what to do. This leadership theory relies on a clearly defined hierarchy. There must be an easily identified open leader, and there must be no additional expectations for followers. If these two things aren't present, transactional leadership will nearly always fail. All these theories of leadership kind of come together and add up and incorporated together into transformational leadership. The idea here is not to focus on behaviors or traits or situations or even transactions, but to transform followers into something more than perhaps they were before. We have leaders utilize task integrity, organizational integrity, long-term goals. Leaders must be adaptable, create harmony among followers, and encourage collaboration between all levels of leadership and all members of the organization. This requires stable leaders that can support others, that can even encourage people to rise above their own status as leader. We involve others and we encourage other people to incorporate their ideas into the larger picture. Leaders that are transformational leaders personify desired qualities that they would like seen in others. This is the epitome of teamwork. There's less focus on the individual, and it's all about the involvement and the community. But if transformational leadership focuses on empowering others, what does the future of leadership have in store? Bill Gates said that as we look into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. So, how do we do something different when we've been doing it pretty good for the last several years? Leadership theories will continue to develop as cognitive neuroscience develops. We have an understanding of how human cognition and thought processes work, but as new information is incorporated into our knowledge, we will be better understand what it takes to make a great leader. But for now, we can focus on the functions of leadership. Leaders need to focus on the vision and coaching, model behaviors, and mediate between people with discrepancies. We also need to evaluate the facets of trust. It is important that leaders have the ability to be trusted, that they are of a benevolent nature, that they exhibit honesty, openness, reliability, and overall competence. But we also need to understand the culture of an organization. There's several sets of behavioral standards in countries such as Norway, Finland, and Sweden. It is common and culturally norm for a distributed power of hierarchy. I live in the United States, and is where this presentation is created based upon, and the United States, along with Canada and Scandinavia, focus on a much more empowering culture. And within most of the organizations here in the United States, there is a culture of empowerment, transformation, and encouragement. It is also important to remember there are different types of power. People can earn power by offering rewards or punishments, by being authorized a position of power, assigned a position, or simply because they know more about the topic at hand. People are also given power because they are charismatic and can influence people on a social level. The important thing about power to remember as we go into the future of leadership is that the more power you give, the more power you have. And that is kind of the essence of the United States and our empowering culture. That when we give others the power, when we can encourage others to be leaders, then we are better leaders ourselves. In conclusion, I have discussed the history of leadership theories throughout this presentation and also discussed the future of leadership. I would like to take an opportunity to answer any questions that anyone might have. And I also want to apologize about my lack of voice. I have had a little bit of the bug going on and just am regaining my voice back. I hope you all have a beautiful day and can't wait for the next one.